everyone. We're going to start with introductions. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Kate.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Dina.
And we're going to be discussing our research project on how academic performance of college students correlates to their financial well-being. So we'll start with a brief introduction, followed by the literature review, our hypotheses, the variables, and the survey plan. And then we'll get into our population, our research data analysis, the results of that, some implications, and then conclude with future research.
So jumping into the introduction, so the average GPA for a college student is a 3.28. That's from the National Center of Educational Statistics. And then according to Everfee, only 53% of college students feel like they're prepared to manage their money or know what to do with that after college. And then just raise your hand if you've ever treated yourself to like a Starbucks or went to Target after an exam. Yeah, so we all have as well, so we thought that'd be really interesting to see if anyone else is like how we are.
So we began to dive into past research that had been done. We found that there's a lot of research done on academic performance and financial literacy, but not necessarily on academic performance and financial well-being together. So we decided that was why we wanted to do this study, along with the fact that we treat ourselves after presentations and exams that we did well on. So I dove into some research that had been done in the past on financial literacy and academic performance, and we found that Chan and their colleagues said that financial habits and spending patterns can directly affect the financial well-being of a college student. Lone said that individuals who are financially more literate spend their money and prepare for financial needs, that improves their financial well-being too. And then Bruggen and their colleagues found that individuals with higher education levels have increased financial well-being. Conversely, on the other hand, Xiao and their colleagues described that class standing was positively associated with risky behaviors, like using credit cards multiple times a week, late payments on credit cards, and so on. But they also found that these risky behaviors were related to upper level class standings rather than lower level class standings. Robin Sharp also found that after they performed a study with 6,520 students, they found that even with an increased level of financial knowledge, those students tended to have higher credit card scores or higher credit balances, but they did not necessarily take into account the academic performance and financial well-being in this situation.
So before we get into our hypotheses, we wanted to kind of define some things for you. So starting with what is financial well-being. From the Boston University, financial well-being is learning how to manage your money and resources responsibly with an eye toward long-term financial security. And then what is financial literacy? From Federal Student Aid, they have defined financial literacy as the understanding that includes how to earn, manage, and invest money, and has a critical impact on students' ability to make smart choices. So then for our hypothesis development, we wanted to look at the idea of how GPA and financial literacy affect one's financial well-being. With previous knowledge and studies that show relations between financial trouble and shopping inappropriately, we can see a correlation between college students performing well academically and having increased financial well-being. And then we also found that there's possibly a correlation between students' financial literacy and financial well-being. As Kate said in the literature review, studies from Bruggen show that individuals with higher education levels tend to have increased financial well-being. So having higher education and performing well increases one's financial literacy, such as students who are in higher education and taking higher education courses are gaining more knowledge and therefore having higher financial literacy. And then also a study by Journal of Financial Services Marketing found that individuals who are financially more literate spend their money more wisely and plan for future financial needs, which improves their financial well-being. So then the hypotheses that we have come up with are that if students earn a better GPA, they will therefore have an increased financial well-being. And if students increase their financial literacy, then their financial well-being increases as well.
So the variables that we used are independent and dependent. The independent variables were grade point average and financial literacy, and our dependent was financial well-being. So overall measuring how your financial well-being depends on your GPA and financial literacy.
our survey plan, like many of you, we started with the intro and the survey consent, and then we moved into our main block, which consisted of 10 questions. We had multiple choice questions answering yes or no, and then we had a GPA multiple choice question as well. We used the Likert scale. We pulled questions from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and used the financial well-being scale. And then we moved into our final part of our survey, the demographic portion, using multiple choice, and then we used age as the slider scale. And then we plan to, our sample was college students, so our population was young adult consumers, and according to College Ranker, 18 to 24-year-olds is the average age of college students, and our goal was 300 college students, and then our survey was 10 questions, so a bit shorter, so we hope that incentivized people to do it, because it only took 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, as Bridget said, the population that we wanted to sample from was college students, and since we are all college students, we went through email and text message, social media, and word of mouth. We found that going through social media like LinkedIn and Facebook helped because some of our moms reposted stuff and they know people that have college kids. And then we texted friends. Alyssa and Mackenzie are both on all women's sports teams here at NMU, so they had a lot of people be able to respond for us, which was super helpful. And then emailing, we sent out emails to clubs and stuff.
So getting into our population, like Kate said, our goal was 300. We had 196 people take our survey, but only 136 actually completed it in its entirety. We found that the average age was 20.85, so ranging from 20 to 21-year-olds. 95% attended a university, 44 work part-time, and then 45 are full-time students. And then we found that the average income is about $2,000 to $19,000. So continuing, we made like a pie chart to show like the main gender. So kind of fitting because we're all wearing pink, and this was a mainly female-dominated survey with 72%. Just taking into account we all are females, and then with Alyssa and Mac both on women's sports teams. And then 26% were males, and 0.7 were non-binary, prefer not to say, or third gendered.
So going into our data analysis, like Dina said, we had 196 total responses, but only 136 of those participants completed the survey in its entirety. We started off by cleaning our data with Microsoft Excel, and then we deleted all of those incomplete responses that our participants didn't complete fully. We then organized our survey question by those that correlated to hypothesis 1 and those that correlated to hypothesis 2. And we had a total of 5 questions relating to hypothesis 1 and 5 to hypothesis 2. We also developed a point system to help us more clearly measure financial well-being and literacy of our respondents. Those responses that we determined were negative behaviors received 1 point, and those with positive behaviors scored 5. We analyzed our survey questions that used the Likert scale and added our point system there as well. And a perfect score of financial well-being is 40 points, and a perfect score, according to our survey, for financial literacy is 10 points. And then our first hypothesis is a continuous variable. Our GPA question had participants place themselves in a GPA range. And then our second hypothesis is also continuous variables, being financial literacy and financial well-being. And then we used our cleaned Excel data in SPSS to calculate simple regression. And we use simple regression because one variable is used to predict another. And in our survey, GPA is used to predict financial well-being, and financial literacy was used to predict financial well-being as well.
So as Mrs. said, we have a point system, so I'm just gonna explain how that works. So this is an example of one of our Likert scale questions, and we kind of did never being a 1, and then sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So that's kind of how we came up with the system. And then if you read some of our statements, I set financial goals. So if you never do, that's not a great thing. So we said 1 was negative, and then if you do, that's great. But as you can see, some of them didn't really correlate with our scale, so we kind of just deleted that from our data and didn't really look at that. Like I have a check user saving, that's either yes or no, so there wasn't really an in-between. Statements like select if this is true, if you selected it was true based on your IRA or 401k, you would get a point. And then how many financial courses you take, we did a point per course. And then if you didn't take any, 0 points. So we used Excel, the if-then statements to calculate our scores.
So to get our results, we used 2 regression models to see how significant our hypotheses were. So in the first hypothesis, it came out to be 0.329, which landed in the weak category, so therefore we cannot prove that our hypothesis was correct. And we thought this at first because our GPA in the question was divided into 5 groups, so kind of slimmed out the population, so maybe we should have kept that in 1. But on the other hand, our second hypothesis ended up being 0.685, and that was a strong category. So our hypothesis that if your financial literacy increases, your financial well-being will also increase was correct. And to kind of put this all into perspective, the average well-being score that Bridget was talking about was 27.56 out of 40, and the average financial score was 2.7 out of 10.
So as Max said, 2.7 out of 10 is not a great score for financial literacy. So we thought there are some ways that we can implicate our data into policy and university and institutions. So in your major courses, we thought that if all courses, every major has to do with finances in some way. So if in your major you had certain modules that you kind of move through and learn about financial literacy and financial well-being specifically targeted towards your degree, along with general education having a specific financial literacy course that you have to pass in order to graduate. And then on-campus financial education programs at NMU, I looked it up, and we have a watch and learn, so you can like watch all these different videos about budgeting, financial aid, credit versus debit card, etc. But other universities do Adulting 101, like this one that's negotiating your first job offer, which personally I don't know how to do, so I would attend that. And then free financial literacy courses, this one's every Tuesday, Thursday, so if NMU or other universities implicated something like that where all students can attend, and maybe this would help them pass their financial literacy gen ed course, that would be really cool as well.
And then we also went into how practitioners can implement our findings into their workplace. And so now that we know a little bit about the demographic and psychographic of our respondents, based off of our respondent scores, we can base our messaging to resonate with the target public a little bit better. And we are able to get a background on their purchasing patterns and behaviors. In the workplace, it could be encouraged to partner with organizations focused on financial education. And some of those organizations are Operation Hope and NEFE. And Operation Hope is an American nonprofit organization that provides financial literacy empowerment and economic education to youth and adults. NEFE is, it stands for the National Endowment for Financial Education, which is the leading nonprofit national foundation dedicated to inspiring, empowered financial decision-making for individuals and families.
After we analyzed our data and talked about the stuff that we found, we decided that there would definitely be changes that we would make to our study should we do it again, or should we want to do further research into this topic. We would definitely touch on the sample size and the way we recruit. We talked about adding a QR code to a poster, although at NMU it is hard to get a poster posted because it has to be approved, and then it can only be up for a certain amount of time. But we would contact people that we know at other universities, such as like PRSSA connections and presidents of clubs that we're connected with through LinkedIn and conferences and things like that. So another thing that we would also do is a GPA slider scale instead of the multiple choice kind of scale that we talked about earlier. And doing this would put everyone into one group rather than the 5 categories, and we'd be able to analyze the data better and see a correlation within the data better, which might reflect on our first hypothesis about financial well-being and academic performance. We would also ask our participants to list their major when they talk about their financial well-being in our survey, and we might try to incorporate some data from other groups in the class, such as group 1s with their information about their major in financial well-being. And then when we talked about the financial literacy questions, we showed one earlier, but it says don't know on it, and we would emphasize in the survey that it's okay to put don't know, because we found that a lot of people got to that question and then just dropped off. they didn't know the answers and they didn't wanna say they didn't know, so they stopped. Further studies we would do, could relate to this one and definitely should be done. When we come back to changes that we would make, it's definitely the sample